Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright with Dr. Robert Wright Jr., your go-to wellness coaches of StressFreeNow.info. Our featured guest today is Stu Zimmerman, speaking about his book, Inner Security and Infinite Wealth, Merging Self-Worth and Net Worth, co-authored with Jared Rosen. As only the source creator, writer, talent, and CEO, that's Chief Emanation Officer, Stu wears many hats on his shaven head. A reformed hedge fund manager, he has focused on wealth beyond money for the last 17 years. His conscious media endeavors include co-authoring Inner Security and Infinite Wealth, hosting the nationally syndicated Inside Wealth radio program, and co-hosting the award-winning Get Conscious Now television program. His unique blend of loving presence and interest in science, combined with his natural wit and lighthearted nature, makes one think of the Dalai Lama, Albert Einstein, and George Carlin all rolled into one, or so he'd like to think. Stu, we are so happy to have you back on the show again with us today. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be with you both.
Yes, Stu, we had such great fun with you last time, and we're going to have even more fun this time. Audience, you are in for a treat. Stu Zimmerman has nailed it. Well, maybe that's...
thank you.
Yeah, he's nailed it because he's talking about what many people care a lot about, which is abundance, and what the bottom line is money, you know. And so, Stu, I want to start us off with this concept. Christina and I were in the supermarket in New York City years ago, and we were in the fruit and vegetable section of the Pathmark, and we saw this guy. And cutting to the chase, the conversation was, you could only have love or money, not both. And we were protesting with him and said, "What are you talking about? Love or money? It's love and money." And I believe that is what people want. Most people, you know, that to be able to have loving interactions, loving relationships, and have the net worth and cash flow that allows you to move around with ease in the world. So I wanted to start off with that. Can you know, I'm rolling that bowling ball down the alley. Can you knock a few pins down for us?
Well, actually, you're the one who knocked them down, Bob. Good job. So yeah. First of all, when we're talking about money, ultimately it's just an energy, which is why literally it's called a currency. And actually the whole notion of the book, Inner Security and Infinite Wealth, really takes a look at 8 everyday financial terms that actually have dual meanings, and those meanings apply to concepts beyond money. And the thought was, and I love to play with words, and I notice words, that there's a reason why those words are used. And for example, words that are chapters in the book, such as will or trust or appreciation, they all have application in the financial world, and they have implications and meanings to create wealth beyond money. Because ultimately, we're talking about inner security, infinite wealth. What we're talking about is security is really freedom from worry, also known as peace. And wealth is really referring to abundance, of having and being more than enough.
Yeah, thank you for that, because one of the key issues that comes up with dealing with the self-image is this issue of, are you worthy and deserving? And as I flip through your book, you go right to that. So can you speak right to that core issue, Stu, of worthiness and deservingness surrounding money? Because there are, you know, all these popular terms that would dissuade someone from wanting to have the type of money abundance if they've got beliefs and values that contramand that. So, for example, you know, in the Bible, it uses the phraseology of the love of money is the root of all evil. Now, when I was growing up, I just heard the money is the root of all evil, and then I was reading later, and it said the true phrase is the love of money is the root of all evil. Now, either way, however you look at it, if a person grows up with that belief and value inculcated into their subconscious, how would they be able to sustain making money without damaging effects? Because of the unconscious, subconscious part of them has this limiting belief that is really limiting. And in fact, if the thermostat is set low enough, it's in the negative territory. So could you speak to that for our audience, Stu?
Sure. And you're absolutely right, Bob. There are so many contradictory memes and thoughts and beliefs out there around money, where clearly by many measures, and Madison Avenue, I think, has them all, will tell us that we really need to have money and perhaps an extraordinarily amount of money to buy the luxury items to have a fulfilling life. And as you pointed out with the Bible reference, whether it's the love of money is the root of all evil, there are all sorts of messages that money somehow taints your life, or that you have to do things if you really feel like you're not worthy, then maybe feel like you need to do things that you really don't want to do in life to get the money to do some of the things that you've been told will make you happy. And so there are a lot of mixed messages, and compounding that, when we take a look at how society is evolving into greater dysfunction, the disparity of income distribution and wealth distribution is getting wider and wider between the haves and the have-nots. And that's making things even more desperate for people today.
That's very true. I want to say something, actually many things about your book, Stu. It's written in a very uncomplicated way, and it's addressing very primal issues. The book has this sort of gentle yet provocative way of posing these questions where the reader can really just examine their value system and their belief system. And I think what you mentioned earlier and what you talked about the last time you were on our show is this issue of fear, that so many of us have got this primal drive to be safe, and our fears are irrational, and we're not looking at them, and we're not examining them, and we're building them up into something so much bigger than they are. The way you have designed the whole inner security book, and using your financial terms, your 8 financial terms, that's sort of this marriage of practicality and spirituality, if you will, of values. Because I think what you and Bob have been speaking about is that we have a love-hate relationship with money. Money is the means of exchange that we use to acquire needs and luxuries, but yet there's this disdain. Money's dirty. What are you using it for? What are you doing with this? And how can we want something if we're attributing all these negative attributes to it? So
right.
Yeah, what you've put together in this book and the way in which you have done it, that the reader can really look and examine and say, wait a second, hold up here. What are you thinking and what are you doing? Because I think all of us, the way to happiness is to have inner security and infinite wealth. And you're saying, yes, both can be had.
Indeed, it's true. And if we really were to take a look at money, and you really, it is an energy, as I kind of referred to earlier. That is why it's called a currency. And specifically, it's like the energy of water. And if you take a look at the terminology, again, coming back to the words, there are pools of capital, streams of income, and cash is even called a liquid asset. So
it's also called dough, which rises, right?
Well, one can hope.
Very good.
Yeah.
Got to have the right kind of yeast, right?
Right, exactly. Although I'm also reminded of the Homer Simpson. Every time he bumps his head, he goes dough.
Dough, yes.
Oh, and you just reminded me of the Lucy episode where she and Ethel are on the assembly line.
Oh, what a classic! Yeah, what a classic! Yeah. I hear you. So the bottom line is, if we were to stay with the analogy that money is like water, some of the other attributes to water, if we really want to take a look at it, first of all, if you have it in a pond, you can see your reflection, a little bit distorted. So you could actually see your reflection in your belief systems around money. That if you are really a trusting and trustworthy person, then when you have money, it can actually be a source of great good and even more life-affirming to you. And if you're someone who is mistrusting or fearful, having money will actually accentuate that as well. And money can put up walls between you and the rest of the world. And I've seen that happen as a money manager with a lot of people who have extraordinary wealth, financial wealth that most people would love to get their hands on. So in taking a look at that, and also with respect to money, is that if it just sits there in a pond and it's not moving, over time it gets kind of murky and, filled with scum and all the rest. And yet if it's moving and if it's directed in a specific direction, it has great power, like hydropower. And so as we take a look at that, it's just helpful to notice that it really does absorb whatever we put into it. We put love into it, it can be a source of great things and make a difference in people's lives, including your own. And if you put fear into it, it's something that can accentuate the fear and the not enoughness and make life much less enjoyable.
I just have to tell you, Stu, out of all the equivalent terms that you use for money was when you said that's why it's called currency, and my light bulb lit up big time, and I said, oh, there's the word current, like electrical current.
Exactly.
And so it's interesting that you use words like streams of income. So a stream is always moving pretty much. It's moving. Mm-hmm. And so in your book, you actually speak to this effect that, if the money's in the mattress, it doesn't grow because it has no velocity. And one of the things that's clear, I remember seeing years ago research that talks about the difference between impoverished communities and affluent communities. And one key metric is the velocity of money. So in an impoverished community, the money circulates one time and it's gone. And in an affluent community, it circulates a minimum of 8 to 9 times before it leaves the community. So instead of $1, we've got $8 to $9 or more. circulating. So could you just go into that a little bit, in the everyday language about the velocity of money, what that is? A lot of people when they hear economics, their eyes glaze over. But this is a really important concept because it speaks to two things, circulation. Like for example, if you have an air conditioning system and it's not on, it's not circulating, right? So if you have lungs and a nose, but it's not circulating, that means you're not breathing. That's not good, right? So if money's not circulating in your life, it's like your blood not circulating. And so in order to have both the physical aspect and then the spiritual aspect, there needs to be this easy flow. And so how do people get to that, Stu? That I think you talk about that in the book. Can you give that to our audience? I think people are sitting on the edge of their seat. They want to know, how do I get there?
Okay, well, you mentioned a number of things there, Bob, so I'll try to address them kind of one by one. And you talked about the velocity. Now, I'm kind of
well, Stu, I just want to let you know, when you come on our show, we only ask easy questions with low levels of complexity.
Thank you for that. Because I'm not sure if I'm qualified to answer anything more complex.
Oh, I'm sure. Stu, before the call, I actually said to you that you have given a magnificent gift, you and your co-author, to humanity. I haven't met Jared yet, but I have to tell you, I've read, not your entire book, but as I moved around and I said to Christine, this is a beautiful treatise that Stu has written, and then Christine just elaborated that you've written it in an everyday conversational style. You haven't written it in any kind of stuffy thing, and you haven't used any terms that you don't define that a fifth grader couldn't understand. And so that's a high art to be able to do what you and your co-author have done. And then when I flipped and looked at the picture in the back, I said, hey, look at these guys. They're fooling around. They're using the science of play, writing this book, and it's spreading love like dominoes falling in the world. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Bob. And to keep with a simple theme, I'd like to invoke the spirit of Forrest Gump and say that money is as money does. And so it can be a source of love and joy and health and healing and connection and delight. And it can be a source of fear, abuse, pain, suffering, injustice, you name it.
Well, I just wrote that down. Can you repeat that for our audience? Because
sure,
that is like encapsulates a lot of what's going on, and in our previous interview with you, we discussed because people are so busy and distracted, they actually need like a rope thrown to them that can catch their attention for 3 seconds. And then so money is as money does. So run with that for us, Stu. That is wonderful.
Thank you. I'll repeat it. Money is as money does. And that means it can be a source of just incredible joy and love and harmony and health and peace and you name it. All the things you would want in the most beautiful existence. And it can also be a source of injustice, abuse, violence, and all the things that make the world unpleasant and dysfunctional. And the good news is we all have choices every moment. We've got choices every moment, including specifically the choice as to what to think. And I'll give you an example. There are these two sayings that can be equally true and yet completely contradictory. We've all heard the saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And we may all have experiences of that and having that sense of longing when we're away from somebody that we care for. And there's also out of sight, out of mind. And I think we all have experiences of that as well, where we're just focused on whoever we're with in the moment, and maybe the people that we otherwise are fond for really are not in our top of mind or in our consciousness in the moment. Point being is that we actually have choice in terms of what to believe and what to think, starting with who and what we are at the core. And so that's why in the book we actually start with will. And in the financial world, the will is like our last will and testament, which is really a very powerful legal document and a statement for how we want to distribute all of the physical assets that we have worked and possibly even slaved our entire lives to accumulate. And that is the testament of our lives in the physical world, all those possessions. And then the will is the document that says, this is my deepest heart's desire for where all these things are to go from here, and who's to receive them. And with respect to the notion of inner security and infinite wealth, the will really does go to the deepest heart's desires, but not for what's going to happen in the afterlife, but for the here and now. So I really invite all of you to consider, what do you really want at the core? What does your heart burn for to experience in this lifetime, or even to experience right now? What do you really, really want? And consider
that's a beautiful question, Stu. On that note, audience, we'll take a short break, and we'll be back in a moment on Learn to Live Stress-Free as we continue our conversation with our featured guest, Stu Zimmerman, speaking about inner security and infinite wealth.
Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Wright Jr., the Stress Relief Doctor, co-host of the Learn to Live Stress-Free podcast series. I'm an author, speaker, and stress management wellness coach. My published study is the first to show the connection between stress reduction, grief recovery, nitric oxide spiking, and the relaxation response. And my practical application of this knowledge helps you relieve the stresses of everyday life. I have the tools to dissolve your pain points quickly and effectively. Email me to find out how you can start to feel better now at stressfreenow.info/contact. That's stressfreenow.info/contact. Have you been procrastinating about completing an important project or pursuing a treasured dream? Christine Wright specializes in helping her coaching clients to lay out clear, elegant strategies. She shows you how to quickly build your confidence to uncover and eliminate your habitual patterns of resistance and self-sabotage. Christine helps you discover those meaningful insights that will get you to do what works so you can celebrate your successes. Go to stressfreenow.info/contact to let Christine know that you're ready to live your ideal life now. Again, that's stressfreenow.info/contact.
Welcome back to Learn to Live Stress-Free. We are speaking today with Stu Zimmerman on inner security and infinite wealth. Stu, I just want to say you have said so much, and this is not an understatement. It's extraordinarily profound what you have been speaking about, and this matter of will. What comes to mind is, you spoke about choices, is intention, that we can use money to create extraordinary beauty in the world, as well as to be the cause of, pain and despair. And it's a choice. It's a choice we make. And I think it's important to be cognizant of that. It's not the money. It's the intention. It's the choice that we're making. When you and Bob were having that bit of the conversation about dough and rising and the money being liquid, it reminded me of Hello Dolly. I'm not sure if I'm remembering it completely in the movie where she kept saying money is like manure. I think it was, you spread it around to make young things grow or to make things grow. So what's our intention? What's our purpose, as you say? What is it that we want? And when we have that clarity, I think we can really get in touch with that inner security and not be so fear-driven. So I really like what you have put together in this book. And, coming from your background, I love the way you and Jared play off in the book about the visionary and the achiever. Of what perspective do people come to their view about self-worth and net worth? Could you speak a little bit about the different perspectives that people come to the table, looking at money with this sort of love-hate relationship, or where you came from, and what drives people about this net worth?
Sure. Well, we've all been socialized in this material world of ours to have all kinds of desires as well as contradictory beliefs in terms of money. And we touched on it earlier about the love of money being the root of all evil as being one of those premises. And yet money makes the world go round. And we all want the things that, the latest technologies and travel or whatever else it is that requires money, the Tesla, what have you. And so there is this inherent mixed message. And I have to say, in speaking, I've got two daughters who are millennials, and they both say that just about everybody they know lives for the weekend. And maybe it's not just millennials. Maybe it's almost everybody in the working world feels that they are living for the weekend, meaning they're doing what they need to do just to be in some form of survival mode or to create a certain lifestyle that they feel like they need to have.
Stu, I want to interject here because it's not that I don't agree with you. I'm saying that because of what's going on in the world in terms of the financial squeeze, I've been, back in New York, and my experience, the speed and velocity is so great. We're talking about people no longer have a weekend. It's 7 days a week. I mean, if you think about it, people are complaining that their bosses are texting them at 2 o'clock in the morning and saying, I need this on my desk at 7:30 when you get in the office. People are on vacation and they're doing email and et cetera. And then I can't tell you how many people that I've met, and it doesn't matter at what level, that literally it's New York is called the city that doesn't sleep for a reason. I've met so many people after you have a 3-minute conversation with them. I said, well, you're working 3 gigs. Yeah, they said, well, that's why it's called the gig economy. I said, you're working 3 full-time jobs because the part-time job is 24 hours and which works out to over 30 hours when you put in the transportation back and forth. Because I always ask people, well, do you calculate how long it takes you to get from one place to another? When you add that in, so now a person has 3 jobs, they're working 90 hours a week, and they're going to school at night, and they got kids at home, and they're a single parent. They're sucking wind. So what I'm saying is that the accordion effect in terms of the stress burnout, so many more people are closer to burnout because unfortunately there is no weekend anymore for many people. Stores used to be closed on Sundays. People used to go to church. Now, even in states where you had the blue laws, et cetera, things are open. Look, the stores, even on Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, the department stores are open. And
right.
so I just want to make that point that for some people in our society that they don't even get the luxury of being able to work to live for the weekend, because there is no weekend to live for. They're on all the time.
You're absolutely right. And that actually points to the level of dysfunction. And if I want to invite in from our prior conversation about our company, Only the Source, and the operating system, the OS, that is still operating, and we do kind of lovingly refer to it as the program of original sin, that OS, that keeps us separate from each other and something that is ever present in all things. And I'm talking about that from a scientific standpoint in terms of quantum physics. I'm not talking about it necessarily in terms of ancient religious wisdom, but it turns out that that's where they intersect in terms of noticing that there is something in the physical nature of our reality that we are all interconnected by, and yet we are living life every day as if we're not interconnected. And that's why you have people working 3 jobs to support their children. And you have people who are doing whatever they can in some form of survival mode just to get enough money to pay the bills and be on that hamster wheel. And so I'm just saying that there are a lot of people in some form of quiet despair right now. And what they are ascribing to money in terms of being some form of panacea or a necessary evil, we're just really inviting in that the security and wealth that you ascribe to money can be largely achieved within and practiced daily. And in that state of being, your life becomes more magical, and it can very much have implications, positive implications, for your financial network as well.
Great, Stu. I want, as we kind of move towards the end of our interview with you, and I want to let you know this is just the second in a series of conversations and dialogues that we'll have with you, because you are a very, very exciting guest, and you put so much on the table conceptually that we can talk about, and then the next level is as you said earlier, engagement. That's how shifting is caused in the consciousness, where it's actually put into the feeling, bodily felt sense feeling, experiential realm. And so we look forward to engaging with you in the right format, especially since we have this kind of technology, I don't know, through Zoom or something like that, where we will be engaging our respective audiences equally and simultaneously, inviting them in to shift with us. And as I mentioned in the previous broadcast, that it was Michelle Reza out of New York that introduced us. And the type of event that we went to, I'm hoping that you would actually do for our audience, so that they could have the same experience that I had in New York with you, where at the end of each exercise you ask the question, so how do you feel now, and where are you versus when you started? And I think asking throughout, before and after, not only satisfies the quantitative people, but more importantly, from my perspective, qualitatively, because it's really all about how you feel. A person that has a splitting migraine headache, they don't care about any measurement. All they know is that my head is killing me, and now my headache is subsiding or it's gone. And so, on that note, what I like to just move into this terrain, because I believe our audience and your audience and everyone wants to know this information. The rat race, okay, needs no definition. It occurs to me that one way and one very effective way of exiting the rat race is being able to create consistent and healthy passive income streams. So could you speak to that issue in terms of how does a person that has all these contradictory things going on inside of them, what we're talking about is moving to a point of from incongruence to congruency, so that their inner and outer being, both physically and spiritually, matches, so that they can move to abundance. So can you speak directly to how does a person create passive income streams, like starting right now? So they listen to our this talk. What can they do to move to that? Because that is the number one thing in my mind, Stu, that is not taught in school. And when a person is able to have, when you meet a person that has passive income streams, they're not stressed out about how, I'm saying, how are you paying $7,500 a month rent? They go, I have this and that and this and that. And so I think that while working for money in terms of active income, that can be good. The way to really reduce your stress is to have the passive income, because again, that increases your locus of control to the point that your stress and anxiety over the physical acquisition of money and cash flow is non-existent.
Well, it's a great question, Bob. And you talked about the whole rat race and everything, and I am reminded of a great Lily Tomlin quote, which said, "The problem with the rat race is, even if you win, you're still a rat."
I love that. Even if you win, you're still a rat.
And what that really means to me, as a great line as it is, what it really means to me, that before we start focusing on how to even create passive streams of income, make sure you're not a rat. And by that I mean the purpose of the book, Inner Security, Infinite Wealth, is that it truly is an inside job. And as much as the mind wants to fix the outer circumstances in terms of creating these passive streams of income, the actual sense of peace of mind, the inner security, which is a felt sense, a felt state of being, can be achieved first. And I'm really inviting people to consider that as a priority. And then through that lens, start to take a look at, okay, now how can I have the outer world reflect my inner beauty? What can I be doing or set myself up with as it relates to certain products, certain services that could be passive or have ways of having a multiplier effect that help to create a net worth for me, that I can truly be abundant on the outside as well as on the inside.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for that, Stu.
So I agree with you that state of being alone, it's like, I'm not inviting people to go into a monastery, into a mountaintop, and just go into the lotus position and get to a place of peace. Although for some people that could be very helpful for a given moment or two in time. What I am suggesting is that all of it begins from within. And rather than just do whatever you can to fix the outer circumstances in life by, arranging for this or taking the Uber job and doing that, and obviously Uber isn't so passive. It requires full physical presence. But to create MLM strategies or, multi-level marketing, network marketing, things that people can generate passive income through, I'm really inviting you all to simply slow down into this moment and just reconnect with your center. And the book and its chapters are actually being developed into a course. It used to be a seminar because, to your point, Bob, the words are beautiful, the words are great, and the frameworks and the concepts are a great place to start. And unless you're directly experiencing things, all it is a concept or a platitude and not particularly real. And this is all about having it really in the body, in your experience of day-to-day life.
Beautiful, Stu. Bob and I want to thank you so much. This has been just an extraordinary conversation. You've shared so much of your wisdom and your experience with us and our audience. We want to thank you for being our guest again today. And we look forward, as Bob said, that this is not just a second conversation. We look forward to many, many more with you.
And Stu, on another note, that using the term vibrational bubble, you just took us to a magical place, because our first podcast was done with Law of Attraction guru Michael Loget. And then we did our 100th podcast interview with Michael Loget. And we're looking forward to doing our 200th podcast with Michael Loget. And so the reason I mention that is in his book, Law of Attraction, he talks about something that's inside or outside of your vibrational bubble. And he says everything that you want is outside of your vibrational bubble, because the evidence is that you don't have it already. Everything that you have already is inside. And so I want to thank you for that, and we'll have to email Michael. So I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he's an amazing guy, and I want to. And Christine had started out with him when he came to New York, and he only had 5 people in the audience, and now he's sold over 2 million self-published books. So maybe much higher than that, but that was the last time we checked, about 3 or 4 years ago. So thank you for being our featured guest today. So I'll turn it over to Christine.
Well, Stu, I just want you to let our audience know how they can get in touch with you and learn more about what you do, and just find out about your upcoming course that you'll be turning your book into.
Right, and where can they order your book? Do they come to your website, or do they go to Amazon? How do they get the book?
No, that's a great question about the book, because I'm not sure what Amazon has in stock. One thing I can say with absolute certainty is if you reach out to me, I'll give you my email address right now. That's Stu, S-T-U, at onlythesource.com. Stu at onlythesource.com. If you email me, I'm happy to send you a book at a substantial discount for then its retail price. So that's one thing. And 2, if you're interested in taking any of the online courses that we have to offer through Only the Source at onlythesource.com, and our first course is called Give Yourself a Raise, and that may very well be already available by the time you hear this. And if not, just send me an email, again, to that email address, Stu at onlythesource.com, or like us on Facebook at Only the Source, or me personally, Stu Zimmerman, and send me a message that you heard about everything going on here, the courses through this podcast with Bob and Christine. Then I will give you a 50% discount to any course that we have available. And at some point by the end of the calendar year of 2018, Inner Security and Infinite Wealth will be an online course as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Stu. So, audience, you can check out Stu at onlythesource.com. Email him there, Stu at onlythesource.com, and make use of his offer for a substantial discount on his book, Inner Security and Infinite Wealth, and for a discount on the courses by mentioning that you heard about him on the podcast with Bob and Christine.
Yes, and our podcast name again is Stress Free Now. So, Stu, what final thoughts or key idea would you like our audience to take away from today's broadcast?
That we are only scratching the surface of what's possible. And that as energy beings, we have substantially greater influence over how we experience life than we have been conditioned to believe. And the possibility for that energy to be upticked to a sense of greater delight, peace, playfulness, joy, and love is very, very possible and very achievable for each of us in any given moment.
That's so wonderful, Stu, because you took me and I believe people in our audience that are familiar with the Kung Fu Panda series, that when Po, the Kung Fu warrior, finds inner peace, he is able to achieve amazing things. So I want to thank you for that. So audience, I want to thank you for listening. And again, I want to thank Stu Zimmerman for being our featured guest today. And wherever you are and whatever time zone you're in, we hope and appreciate your presence and trust that you have benefited in some special way from the information delivered today. Certainly, Stu Zimmerman has given us a lot to think about and consider putting into action, because it's basically about the experience, having the in-body, fully associated experience so that you can really know and walk your talk. As always, we look forward to receiving your comments. Please let us know if there are any additional topics you'd like to see us cover, or if there's a guest like Stu you'd like to have us invite back. Please contact us through our website with your feedback and suggestions. Remember, listeners, if you'd like to experience the same benefits our coaching clients get with us, including learning how you can get more results in your day and easy ways to dissolve your chronic pain, stress, and anxiety, then give us a call at 954-900-2179. Mention that you heard our Stress Free Now podcast show, and you'll receive a free gift from us. Call today to schedule your free consultation. For Christine Wright, this is Dr. Robert Wright, Jr. of StressFreeNow.info. Until next time, be safe and be well.